Power is like fire. It can warm the hands or burn the house. In the heart of Oyo, that fire was beginning to burn too bright. The ancient city of Oyo sprawled beneath a red sky, its clay walls glowing gold in the dawn as market drums echoed softly through the streets. A hawk glided overhead, riding the wind that carried the low rumble of distant thunder, an omen, perhaps, of the storm that was brewing within the palace walls. In the royal council chamber, Alaafin Adewale sat tall upon his ivory stool, his presence commanding the room where the 7 Oyo chiefs gathered in quiet anticipation. Among them was Basoran Gbamu, the king's chief counselor, who leaned forward with an expression of calm defiance that few others dared to wear in the Alaafin's presence.
A wise king listens to the ground he walks on.
The Basoran spoke of troubles in the northern provinces, of failing farms and slowing tribute, of people who cried that the taxes were too heavy. He asked what the king would do, and when pressed for his own counsel, reminded Adewale that a wise king listens to the ground he walks on.
And what do you say, Basoran? Kabiyesi. The people cry that the taxes are too heavy.
But Adewale, proud and unyielding, smiled with cold certainty. He declared that the ground listens to the foot that rules it, that mercy does not feed a kingdom. The chiefs exchanged wary glances as the air thickened with tension. Gbamu warned that pride could choke a man, even a king. Adewale's response was swift and sharp. He told the Basoran to be careful, that the tongue which speaks too freely may forget the crown it faces. Outside, a hawk's cry echoed as if punctuating the threat. In that hall, 2 lions stared at each other, one crowned by power, the other by cunning. Neither would bow. Beyond the palace walls, life bustled in the Oyo market, but beneath the rhythm of commerce, unease hummed like a discordant note. Traders whispered while selling yams, saying that the Basoran fought for the people while the king fought for himself. They reminded each other of the old saying, 2 chiefs cannot share one calabash. A young palace guard named Akinola overheard these whispers, and concern shadowed his face. Even the markets began to hum with tension. The people did not yet know who to fear, the thunder of the king or the whisper of his counsel. As sunset painted the sky, Adewale stood on the palace balcony, gazing over Oyo's skyline. The queen came to him quietly, bearing palm wine, and noted that he hadn't eaten.
The stomach of a king is filled with worries, not yam.
King replied that the stomach of a king is filled with worries, not yam. When she assured him that the people loved him, he spoke a darker truth, that love fades faster than rain on sand, that people follow power, not hearts. Even kings feel the wind change. They just pretend not to. That same night, in the Basoran's courtyard, Gbamu spoke to 2 regional chiefs. He painted a picture of a king who built statues while their men went hungry, asking whether they should let the lion sleep while the forest burned. When one chief protested that Adewale was still their king, Gbamu smiled darkly and said, "For now." The seeds of rebellion were not sown in blood, but in persuasion. As night deepened over the palace, Akinola passed 2 servants, whispering in hushed tones. They spoke of how the council now followed the Basoran, invoking the old proverb, "When 2 elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers." And somewhere between loyalty and fear, a boy began to wonder what truth was worth. When the drums of power beat too loud, the people's cry is drowned beneath them. In the royal council chamber, Adewale's tone grew sharper with each passing day. He ordered more soldiers sent north, demanding that the provinces remember Oyo's strength. When a chief tried to speak for the people, the king cut him off, declaring that when a king softens, vultures gather. Gbamu watched quietly before offering his own wisdom. Even the lion rests before another hunt. But Adewale countered that when the lion rests, hyenas feast. The two men locked eyes once more, and the council sat in silence, caught between two forces neither willing to yield. The throne had become a battlefield of words. In the streets of Oyo, Akinola walked through the market where soldiers collected taxes from weary faces. An old woman muttered bitterly that the king once fed the hungry, but now he fed only his pride. The young guard heard it all, and something shifted within him. That night in the palace hall, the queen found Adewale pacing, consumed by paranoia. He complained that the Bassaran poisoned ears, that the people looked to Gbamu before looking to their king. The queen, ever wise, urged him to adjust like a dancer when the drums change rhythm. But Adewale snapped that he was the rhythm. After a moment of silence, he softened, his voice breaking slightly as he confessed that they treated him as if his crown was borrowed. The queen spoke gently then, warning that even the lion cannot fight the wind, that he must bend a little before he breaks. Love spoke wisdom. Pride could not hear. In the Bassaran's house that same night, Gbamu gathered his allies, commanders and priests who listened as he spoke of a king who ruled with fire instead of wisdom. He invoked Shango himself, saying that when pride deafens a man, even the god of thunder turns his face away. A priest added gravely that if the lion refuses to listen, the forest will choose another roar. The first plots took shape, not with swords, but with words. In the palace garden under the cover of darkness, Akinola confessed his confusion to Odekunle, an old palace guard. He admitted he no longer knew who truly served Oyo. The old man replied with the familiar proverb about elephants and grass, but added a harder truth, that the grass which watches too long gets trampled first. The boy's face hardened. He was changing. The boy's heart still sought truth. But truth in Oyo had a price. Empires rise on strength and fall on silence. Rain pounded the roof of the palace throne room as the Alaafin glared at his council. His voice rose in fury. He heard whispers in his own house, soldiers questioning his rule while he still breathed. The Bassaran remained calm, speaking of hungry people and an emptying treasury while the palace grew. When Adewale slammed his staff and shouted that statues reminded the people of power, Gbamu replied quietly that a kingdom without peace has no glory. The king warned that the Bassaran was forgetting himself. Gbamu bowed slightly and said, "No, my king. I remember too well respect had turned to rivalry, and rivalry to something darker." That night, on the outskirts of Oyo, rain poured as Gbamu's loyal men gathered with torches. A commander spoke the plan. At dawn, they would surround the palace, and the king would choose between exile and death. Akinola, who had been listening from the shadows, ran horrified into the dark. The empire that once roared now whispered its own destruction. Before dawn, In the palace chamber, the queen pleaded with Adewale to flee, but the king refused with quiet dignity. "A lion does not flee from hyenas," he said. "If his end must come, let it find him on his feet." He held his crown in his hands and spoke softly, almost to himself. Power is sweet until it tastes like ash. He walked not as a ruler, but as a man who finally saw the cost of pride. As morning mist rose over the palace courtyard, the council gathered. Basoran Gabamu stepped forward and declared that the gods had turned their faces away, that tradition demanded the king choose his path. Adewale looked at him with clear eyes and said that Gabamu thought he served the people, but truly served only his own shadow. "The lion may fall," he said, "but the forest will remember his roar." Gabamu replied coldly, "Then let your roar echo in the past." The drums began, slow and heavy. In Oyo, a fallen king was never slain by sword. He was expected to take his own life. In the inner shrine, lit by the soft light of morning, Adewale knelt before Shango's altar. He lifted the poisoned cup and spoke in Yoruba. "One does not play with the king's head." He drank. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance. The crown slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a hollow sound. He was a king of vision, blinded by his pride, a leader who wanted glory and found silence. Later that day, Akinola walked through the quiet palace where the air had grown still. He knelt and picked up the fallen crown, holding it in his young hands as understanding dawned in his eyes. Empires rise on strength and fall on silence, but as long as the young remember, the lion never truly dies. High above Oyo Empire, the camera would rise, showing the ancient city half bathed in sunlight, half in shadow, a kingdom forever caught between glory and grief, power and its price.